Hello, guys. Good evening and welcome to today's live session. I'm Dominic Kishatingonimye, and this is LogTech's online training bootcamp. And as usual, you can call me Data Kish. So, we'll continue from tomorrow's classes, tomorrow and Monday's class. Okay, so let me dive right in. If you recall where we stopped yesterday's class, actually, I'm sorry, mine was a bit boggled up. Sorry about that blunder. If you recall where we stopped at yesterday's class, we were supposed to clean the data sets that Ada provided for her business, and we would continue with that cleaning process. So I'll be sharing my screen. I'll start off by sharing. And at this point, I'm hoping you've already downloaded the data set. If you haven't, please do so already. Oh, and good evening, Dozie. Welcome. Welcome. So I'm diving right in already. I'll be sharing my screen in a moment. I'll be starting off with the sales data set. Please notify me when Please, I'd like to see your notification on the comment section if you can see my screen. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen, please? Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so this is the first data set we'll be cleaning. And like I said earlier, I'll just dive right into practice. I'm hoping you've opened up your laptops, you've opened the data set as well, and you're very ready to follow along. I'll be glad if anybody can notify me that that's the case from their end. Give me a thumbs up if you've opened the data set as well and you're ready to dive right in with me. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll continue already. So I've zoomed in to give you a better view of the data set. So these are the columns we have of the data set. As a data analyst or a data scientist in general, one of the things you do most of the time is to look at data as literally as it sounds. You look at data almost all the time. You keep looking and trying to make sense of it. So in looking at data, there are strategic ways you could understand the data set in front of you. As simple as it comes, you just have to go through the column headings if provided. So it helps give you an idea of what you're seeing in front of you. So we can see that this is the transaction ID, the date ID, the product category, the product name being sold, the quantity, the unit price, total sale and payment method. So already we have an idea of what we should do now with this. We clean our data sets by handling column for column, especially the columns we intend to use for analysis. One of the cleaning practices, the first cleaning practice we were told to take into action is pointing out missing values. So you could try to scroll through your data set to look for missing values, like the one I've spotted here. But this will take a while if the volume of data you have is something that cannot be scrolled through at ease as this in front of us. So to avoid such case scenario, you could easily use Excel functions. We talked about these functions in the last session, so I wouldn't delve right in to give detailed explanation. So one of set functions we could use to view missing values are the count blank function. To declare an Excel function, you always have to start with the equal to sign. So I'll start with equal to sign and then type out count blank function and then open bracket. So one good thing about Excel functions is the fact that they come with the parameters, the description of what you should, the argument you should enter into the function. This is synonymous to programming, by the way. That's why someone who has learned Excel to a point could easily pick up a programming language and learn as well. So for count blank function, we would need to enter a range. The range in this case would be the range of this data, the transaction ID. So if we enter the transaction ID range, which is A2 to A, see where it ends, A102, A102. That's the range. So I use colon in between the cell addresses to indicate the length of the range. And then you enter and it counts all the blank cells there for us. Oh, and I'm sure somebody must have noticed something on the date column where there are values with the hash symbol. So when you have this indication, it means it's either numeric entries or date entries that are in that cell, and there are too many to be displayed. The width of the cell is too small to display all the date entry or numeric entry. So as not to give misinformation, it's an Excel feature to just represent it with hash. To take out that hash, all you have to do is expand the column width. You could expand your column width automatically by coming to the border and double clicking. Okay, so let's continue. So now I've done this and known how many blank cells exist in the first column. To replicate the same effect across the rest of the columns, all I have to do is to use the autofill feature. We talked about this yesterday. When you hover over a cell to the bottom right corner of the cell, it becomes your cursor becomes a dark plus sign. And when that happens, you know the autofill feature is ready for action. You right click on it and drag, left click on it rather, and drag across where you intend for it to replicate the same function you've declared and see what happens. See, it replicated the function and adjusted the cell ranges. In the next cell, it checked our missing values from B2 to B102. The next cell, it did the same, C2 to C102. It adjusted it. We did not have to type the function from scratch anymore. So now we know that, oh, in this column, there is one missing value. In this column, there are 5 missing values, and we have to address these missing values. If you're pumped and very happy about how far we've come, let me see a thumbs up on the comment section. And I'd like for you to like and subscribe to our channel already. If you haven't, please do so. Thank you. Okay, so I'll continue the session. So at this point, we would have to investigate where the missing value for this column is. If you type in, you press down your control and arrow keys, it takes you to the top and bottom of your data set without having to use your mouse. Control and direction keys. You press the up arrow or down direction keys. It moves you across your data set with ease. So by pressing this, it took me to the point where there's a missing value. And we can see that there's supposed to be an indication of the product category. But there isn't. So we have to resolve this. What category does a sponge product belong to? So to do this, I could search to see if there is another sponge entry. That is one way to resolve a missing value. To use the data in front of you to see if it gives you insight of what should be there. Or you refer back to whoever entered the data set. But you always have to address missing data, especially if it is not supposed to be missing on default. Okay, so let's continue. For this sponge, we have to find out what category it belongs to. And to do so, to make it easy for us to do so, I intend to apply something called the filter feature. By the way, I thought for aesthetic purpose and easy identification, we could make bold our column titles to give it a differentiation with the rest of the data. Okay, so to effect the filter feature, all I have to do is highlight the row with which I want to apply a filter to. You would see what the filter does, by the way, and go to the filter feature up here in your home tab and click on it. And by the way, when you click on the feature, you notice the description um, tooltip that appears right next to the feature. For our filter feature, you could see that there's a shortcut that could be used to enable it. That's Control Shift L. That's one way you could learn to use shortcuts in Microsoft Office tools. Tooltips always appear next to features to give you more description and more info that would help you the next time you intend to use that feature. So you can now see this shortcut, and the next time you intend to use filter feature, you don't have to come here to click it anymore. You could just use the shortcut Control Shift L. So with this, I will click and it applies a filter. A filter is simply a drop down that highlights all the unique entries in a particular column. You can now see that, oh, these are the unique entries that column has. The reason I'm doing this, by the way, I would advise you do this to all your columns. So to do this to all the columns in the data set, we use Control A to highlight everything in the data set. When I scroll all the way down, you notice it has highlighted the data set. Control A to highlight the data set. And then now we remember our shortcut, Control Shift L. You press it again if it hasn't affected, Control Shift L. And you notice it has applied the filter function to all your columns. With this, you can see the unique values in every column you have. So I can see a unique value to these columns I have and address that. I could also see unique values here. Oh, I could also see unique values here. So one of the reasons we pointed this out, we should not forget our train of thought, was so we could see what product category the sponge belongs to. So I could filter out sponge to see if there's another case scenario of sponge that would help tell me which product category it belongs to. So, okay. And then, oh, I can see here that it belongs to the household category. So I would easily just copy Control C and paste Control V. Please excuse my use of shortcuts, but it makes your work faster over time. So you do not have to right click to select options. Thank you. So there's no need to leave the filter on. I'll turn it off by selecting all the items. Now we've cleaned this, we've resolved this missing data for this column. So we come to this other column and resolve the missing data here. So for this total sales column, we notice whoever helped Ada Billions in entering her data missed out on writing the total of what he or she sold. It must have been the shop at the store attendant. He or she must have forgotten about doing this. So let's resolve this. The total sales column is quite easy to compute. It's such that it occurs from multiplying the quantity sold and the unit price. So it's something we could even do with Excel formulas too. So one thing I advise is for columns where you cannot effect the change directly or manually, it's advisable to leave them the way they are to create a new column. So we could create a new column called cleaned total sales. So I would easily just copy this, Control C once more, paste it here, Control V. Oh, let me copy the text inside. Control C, Control V, or you just type it out easily. So now we've created a new column where we want to clean this column. So all we have to do is now we'll use cell addresses instead of typing out values as 10 times 200. So we'll type out cell addresses instead. So the cell address helps us replicate the function. So we could type out the cell address E2 times F2, and it helps us do the operation, and we could replicate the same feature with our autofill feature. By the way, you don't have to drag your autofill feature all the time. You could just double click on it in a column wise presentation, and it replicates it all the way down to the end of your data set. So now we have our total sales, and I could try to see if there's any missing. There isn't. So anyway, we have cleaned this column. So we move to the next part of our cleaning process. In a way, we have resolved the missing values, by the way. The next part of our cleaning process is to identify duplicate entries. In this case scenario, duplicate entries would be transactions that were entered twice. If we don't handle that, we would inflate our total values at the end of the day. We may be thinking we made whatever amount of money when it's because we have duplicate transactions entered. So we have to find out if there's a case of duplicate transaction. So it's going to be cumbersome to have to scroll through the transactions line by line and try to decode which is duplicate or not. So Excel has a feature to help you handle such case scenario. So there are actually multiple features to handle such case scenario. But one of the very easy feature you could use, the first feature, I would show you both, by the way, is the conditional formatting feature. It's still in your home tabs. You click on it and you would see the first conditional formatting feature. Go down to the last, duplicate values. And this will help you point out duplicate values in your data set. Firstly, I'd advise you highlight where you intend to see duplicate values. Let's say I want to see all the duplicate values in the transaction ID, which will help us know unique transactions. I would highlight the column by clicking on letter A for the column. Go down to conditional formatting, highlight sales rules, and click on duplicate values. And see the rule. The rule is duplicate with values, make it light red fill with dark red text, which is what is the case we are already seeing in effect. So this has already pointed out a duplicate transaction ID for us, which is beautiful. So we could remove this duplicate entry, but we have to validate if it's exactly duplicate as much as we think. So we would, by staring through, you could easily see that this is similar to this. So we move ahead and try to resolve it. So we can resolve it by deleting the rows, the duplicate rows. Or there's another avenue to resolving duplicate values. So let me show you that avenue. If you're not going to use conditional formatting, you can use the feature in the data tab of your Microsoft Excel. So I would first have to highlight the entire data set. So you notice the entire data set has been highlighted, and I'll go to my data tab and use the feature called remove duplicate. By clicking on that feature, it asks you where you want to remove the duplicate by highlighting all the columns, and by simply saying OK, it points out the duplicate and removes it from the data set for you. So it has told us one duplicate value was found and it has been removed. Now we have 100 unique values remaining. So it was also trying to point out that it may contain empty cells. We have resolved that too. So we have resolved duplicate values. Now on to the next part of data cleaning. We will now have to resolve data inconsistencies. Sometimes this is very tasking, but you would see faster processes you could take to resolve this. If you're still with me, I would like to see your thumbs up on the comment section. If you can still see my screen, you can still hear me clearly, and you're practicing alongside with the class, I'd like to see your thumbs up in the comment section, please. Okay. Okay, to validate that you're still with me, I'm going to throw one question at you guys. So, oh, okay, I'm going through your, oh, is this Excel? Yes, it is Excel. Please, is Excel we all know the same thing as data analysis in Excel? Well, Excel is a spreadsheet tool that can be used for data analysis as well as other functions. But from the very first time it was produced, Data analysis was one of the key feature the product was meant to resolve. So you can use Excel for beyond data analysis, but it's very good for data analysis. One of the reasons Excel is popular is because it's a Microsoft Office feature. So it's almost always present in every Windows computer. Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue. So back to where we were. We're supposed to now move on to resolving inconsistency in the data entry. Inconsistency in the data entry. So I am still getting some questions. Can Excel be used for bar chart data? Oh, yes, it can. And you would see this eventually as we go through the rest of the class. You would see this eventually. It can. And you would see why and when we use bar charts. Okay, so let's continue. So to resolve data inconsistency, you first need to understand the data you have in front of you. So we've understood that the first column holds our transaction ID. It means we need unique transaction ID. And we have resolved that there are no unique transaction IDs. So, oh, and I noticed there's a case scenario where there's a blank value here. This blank value exists due to the removal of that duplicate value. You know, our data set was from 1 to 102, but because we removed data, it was thinking it is blank. So we can delete this row and see what happens. By deleting this row, did you notice what happened? There are no missing data except in the case of this total sales that we have resolved over here, over here. So this is a replacement to this row, this column. One of the reasons I left this column is you could always go back to whoever entered the data to correct said entry processes by leaving columns that you don't want to touch like this. Okay, so let's continue. Or you could delete it entirely. We will do that eventually, but let's continue with what's more important, resolving column for column data inconsistency. Our date column is very inconsistent. I'm hoping you've seen it with me, that by simply scrolling through the data set, you could see where the date values were entered differently. There's one with hyphen and there's one with slash. I can even notice a case scenario where there is a month first, day first inconsistency. Now, this will test your use of Excel to resolve this. Data analysis is not Excel. This is where you now know the difference. So you use Excel as a tool to analyze your data. There are several tools out there we could use other than Excel. There are several tools other than even spreadsheet tools. There are visualization tools. There are programming languages we could use to analyze our data. But the thought process, the workflow of data analysis is what you need to know as a data analyst. And not particularly just learning a tool, but knowing the workflow of data analysis. Thank you. So in resolving this, the simplest and fastest way I could relate to you is inserting a new column that will correct this. But we cannot manipulate this data the way it is, because right now, if we go to our home tab, you would notice this cell has a description, a data description of date. By the way, these are data types. It could be general, it could be number, it could be, see, when I changed it to number, my date became a number. I could go back and change it to date, short date, it became the date it was, long date, it became a long date. Are you noticing this? So you could change the data type of your data entry in this with this feature in Excel. But that's not what we're doing now. We're trying to resolve this inconsistency. And in resolving this inconsistency, we could do more. We could pull out the days, pull out the months, pull out the year if possible, because we might need this for further analysis in the future. When you pull out to create new columns in your analysis or your data science workflow, you've done a concept called feature engineering. You've produced new columns that were not in existence in the data set. You've done feature engineering. By the way, to get a full breakdown of data analysis with Excel, You would have to subscribe to our package by going to our official website and having to go through the process of enrolling for the entire course. So let's continue. So I would type in, first thing, I would need to convert the date from date data type to text data type so I can easily manipulate it. Ordinarily, I would have loved to pull out the year. Let me show you what I mean. I would love to pull out the year from this data type. I would use the feature called write, the function, sorry, called write. Write is a function that pulls out data from the right side of a text data. So if you write a function and open bracket for the function, your parentheses for the function, I recall I told you there will be the parameters displayed so you know. So after declaring write, the next thing I have to highlight the text I want to pull out from its write. I could easily type out the text. I could type out maybe Ada billions. You know, everything we've been doing. And then I would have to indicate the number of characters I want to pull out from Ada billion, comma. Let's say I want to pull out the last four characters, 4. I will close that. So it pulls out the last 4 characters from Ada billion for us. That's on the right side of the text. But right now, I want to pull out the last 4 characters of the text in this our data, our date column. So by that, I would have to highlight the date column and still use comma. You could always meet errors in Excel when using functions. If there was no comma in this case, and I try to enter this function, see, Excel pops up a notification to tell us there's a typo in our formula and asks of us if we need a correction. And see, the correction is suggesting, do we want to pull out from B24? That was not what we want to. We want, if you say yes, it will pull out from B24, but that's not what you wanted. You wanted it to pull out 4 characters on the right of B2. So you put your comma in between. So you notice, see what it's giving you. You cannot even understand why it's giving you this. This is because this is not a text data. This is a date data type, date time data type. So for you to use left and right feature, left and right functions, you have to make sure it is a text data. So we can easily convert date data to text data. So let's do that already. So I'll create a new column to convert it to text data. So I'll call this text date. So I'm converting my date to text. So to convert your date to text, you simply use the text function and indicate what you want to convert. Remember, I told you it's best to use cell addresses and typing out the values fully. So the thing I want to convert is in B2. So I type out B2, comma. I want to convert it. So now, this is quite tricky. You may not know how to use certain functions from scratch. So one way you could always find out how best to declare your arguments for functions is the internet. You could go to Microsoft official page or simply Google the function. How do I use the text function to convert date to text? So that's one way you could get better at Excel. Always try Google. There are several tools nowadays that help us. You could try the AI to ChatGPT to ask it questions and come back and use the solutions on your Microsoft Excel. Over time, you get better and you recall more functions without having to go and ask. So that's how I know what to do next. Now, using the text function to convert date to text, I would use this format. This is how I know the format to use. The format is there's supposed to be month, day, and year. 4 characters for year, 2 characters for month, 2 characters for date. I'll close that and close it. I'm hoping you're following along, please. And then enter. So voila, it has. See, when I made it a dash, it changed it to a hyphen for me. And it has converted our date data type to text data type. Excel has a feature that you may not notice, but let me point it out for you. Numeric and date data types are simply seen as numeric together or simply seen as continuous data, while text data are seen as categorical data. So Excel has an alignment feature where it pushes continuous data to the right side of a cell, and it pushes categorical data, aligns it to the left. So that's one way you could easily tell, oh, this thing is in text format. It's not, it's in continuous format, it's in categorical format. I hope you recall this. This is quite applicable to a lot of spreadsheet tools. It gives alignment for different data types. Let's continue. So to replicate this feature across the entire column, I will double click on my auto feature and the same effect goes all the way down. So you see, oh, but there's a case where it stuck to this because it couldn't recognize this month. Are you noticing this? This person put the day first before the month. We still have to resolve this eventually, but we would see how we can go about that. So in these cases where it could not recognize the month, it left the slashes, the forward slashes. Okay. So now we have it as text. We can easily pull out our year. So let's go fast right ahead to pull out the year. So now I would call this C2, comma. I want to pull out the last 4 characters for my year. I'll just press 4 down and enter, and it pulls out the year. So if I want to pull out the month, or create a new column. By the way, remember I told you this is for feature engineering. This is what we're doing now. We're creating new columns from the data we were provided. It's sometimes a part of the cleaning process and sometimes a part of your EDA. Sometimes a part that comes after your analysis. But when it's being needed, you do such. So because I intend to clean the date column, sorry, that's why I'm doing this feature engineering. Sometimes I may not need to do it now. I may not need to create new columns. Okay, so let's continue. So to pull out the month, this is a bit tricky. It's not quite tricky. The month is supposed to be the first 2 characters of your date data. But there are situations where the month is now not the first 2 characters, but the middle 4th, if you count the number of characters, this is 1, 2, 3, 4th and 5th characters. What do we do in this case? Let's see what we can do. So equal to, we pull out our month, and we pull out our right. In this case, we use left, sorry, because we're pulling from the left. First 2 characters, or first we call out the text we're pulling, comma, the first 2 characters, and then enter. So it pulls out 1 for us. But we don't like what we are seeing. These cases where there is 14, 18, 24, 30, 13. We don't like this. We do not like this at all. So we have to resolve these cases where the months are being used as days. So for these, I thought to use, over time you get better at knowing which functions to use. We'll use an if function. An if function is such that helps us declare logical statements in Excel to carry out several operations. So I would show you a simple if function declared on some other column, so it makes it easy to understand how if functions work. So I could want to use if functions on my clean total sales. I could want to create a new column called price category. I just thought of that, price category. And I want to categorize these prices for prices above 5,000 naira and prices below 5,000 naira. Or maybe I place it at 10,000 naira because there's now a taxation deduction from expenses above 10,000. So let me do that to see how much, or let me do that to categorize sales that are above 10,000 and sales that are below 10,000 with the if statement. So I'll declare this by starting with equal to if, and then an open parenthesis. So you now have to declare your logical test. The logical test to be to check if this price is above 10,000 naira. I will click on it for cell reference L2. Is L2 greater than 10,000? Remember, 4 zeros for 10,000. Now you've stated your test. The next thing is to indicate what should it do if this is true. If L2 is greater than 10,000, what should it do? There's a comma that comes next before the next argument. Value if true, when you notice it over there. So we will tell it to type out taxable. Taxable We just call it taxable. And then comma, call this one non-taxable. And then we close. Did you notice what happened? It has carried out the logical test for us. Double click to replicate the feature across your data set. Oh, it isn't, because it doesn't count this as a data set yet. Do you know why that happened? I created the cell away from the last column. So to bring it closer, so it knows it's now a part of the cell, I can highlight it, Control X, bring it closer. And then when I try this, it works. It now sees this as a part of the data set. By the way, there is no filter feature here. So I would highlight these two columns and apply the filter feature. Can I see you recall the shortcuts to get filter features, please? Shortcut for filter feature. Can you recall it for me? What's the shortcut to get the filter feature? I would like to see it on the comment section. Okay, in 3 seconds, I'll continue if there is no comment. Okay, the shortcut to get your filter feature is Control Shift L. Control Shift L. So I would press that down, Control Shift L, and it applies the filter feature to this. So with this now, I could Control Shift L. Control Shift L. Control Shift L. It applies the filter feature. With this, I could easily filter out all the taxable and non-taxable transactions that were made. Okay, let's go back to what we intended to do. By the way, I had to just give you a quick preview of how to use the if function, because my intention is to use the if function in resolving this issue of the month. So I intend to create a logical statement that will pull out the first 2 characters if the month is not greater than 3. Because the expectation is Ada gave us a data set for January to March. So the month value should not be greater than 3. So anytime the month value is greater than 3, we know that that's supposed to be the day. So if it is supposed to be the day, it should pull out the values between the 4th character and 5th character. So I'll use the if statement, and I'll nest this my left statement, and I'll nest another mid statement. I may not be able to, time will not allow me to explain all the functions in as much detail as you would like, but I would make sure to carry you through slowly so you can replicate it in your computer. So I'll use the if statement. If, open parenthesis. The logic is check this value. Oh, sorry. Check this value here. Okay, maybe I could do this. I could create, to make it easier for you, I could create a new column. This is now the clean month column. I'll just call it then month. I will delete the other month column when I'm done cleaning it. Equal to if. So check. By the way, Excel functions are not case sensitive. You could use small letters and it will work. So it doesn't matter what case you use. If this is greater than 3, if this month function is greater than 3, if this month value, sorry, is greater than 3, what should it do? It should come back to this text date and pull out the 4th and 5th character. For you to be able to do that, you would use a new function called mid. Mid. So I'll use mid, open brackets, that it should come here and start from the fourth character, that's start num, and pull out, it says, what's the next thing? Number cars, num cars. That's how many characters should it pull from the 4th character? So just pull out the 4th and 5th and close it. Now I'm back to the logical statement. I've told you what to do if it is true. If this is greater than 3, you should go and pull out the month from in between. If it is not greater than 3, give us back that month value. I put back E2, and then I'll close my logical statement. See what it did. Oh, there's an error somewhere. If it is greater than 3, it should have given us E2, but it still pulled out so big. Do you know why this happened? It's because it doesn't see this as numbers. It's seeing this as text, remember. And this function was for a number. So for us to do that, we should now call this E2 a number. Like making a text a number, you use the function value. I'll nest E2 inside that function called value. So it sees it as a number. And then enter. See, it returns 1 for us. And then I can replicate this across. So if you notice, in this case scenario where there was 13, it pulled the other one for us. And we have cleaned our month. We can delete this, we can leave it for study purpose. Now, the last thing we want to do to the date is day, pull out the day value. So to do this, it's quite simple. We would find out if the month, by the way, you should always calm down and think of the logic first. If the month value you have pulled out is what is in this first two, then your date value should be what is here. If it isn't, that means the day value, sorry, should be the first 2 characters. Ordinarily, the day value is 2. Ordinarily, we should just use the function called mid to pull out the day value. Mid should pull out day value from here, starting from the 4th character and giving us 2 characters from that 4th character. Ordinarily, this should pull out the day value. But this scenario where the day was now the first 2 characters is why we would use the if statement once more. Being a data analyst, one of the core soft skill you would pick up is attention to detail. Attention to detail. It now becomes very evident in your everyday life. You start paying attention to more details than usual. Because when you make mistake with detail, you end up giving insights that is very flawed, insights that are very flawed. So a data analyst is trained to become very attentive to detail. So let's continue. So that's one thing you should remember by the end of today's class. A data scientist generally. Okay, so if statement, I open the statement and tell it if this value, same logic actually, if this value for our month is greater than, so remember we use value, so don't forget that value. This value for our month is greater than 3. This month that was flawed, if it is greater than 3, we now know that that is supposed to be the day. It's not the month. We will now tell it to call this value here. Else, if it is not greater than 3, that's when it should go back and then we'll use our mid. Go back to the text date and pull out the middle value starting from 4, the 4th character, sorry, and the next 2 character after the 4th character. That's the 4th character and the 5th character. How many characters should it pull from the 4th character? And then we close our if statement entirely. So I'm hoping you can see this if statement, and I'm hoping you will not make errors with placing your commas, your parentheses, because this will lead to flaws that you would have to debug. And you enter. So now it has pulled out the day for us. And I autofill. By the way, when I first learned data analysis for scenarios like this, I kind of will manually come and fill in the date. I will come and look, oh, the date here is 2. I'll type out 2. I'll type out. I was still a data analyst, by the way. But over time, as a data analyst, you get better at knowing how to resolve certain tasks. So your work rate increases. So it doesn't make you any less of a data analyst if you do not have to use these features or functions like I have. But if you know what you intend to do, that's why I keep stressing on the fact that data analysis is more about the workflow than the tool of use. So I know what I wanted. So over time, I got better at knowing how to use these tools to get what I wanted. So let's finish this already. It's going far. So the next thing we do is to resolve our products. We've resolved our dates column, by the way. We now have the date splitted, and we could just bring it back to a corrected date insert. We could bring it back to have a clean date. There's a lot of columns we generated from feature engineering we had to do for our date. So all I have to do to bring this all into one is to use the date value. So the date function uses the year. This is our year from the text. This is our month that was cleaned, and this is our day. See, it has generated a clean date for us. So our date is cleaned for us to use for analysis eventually. So now over to our products category. We've resolved the missing data. Next thing we can resolve here are inconsistency in the types, the data entry. So hovering over the unique values, I would notice, oh, there are cases where there were beverage is spelled differently. I would have to resolve this by filtering out these cases and resolving it. So I filtered only the beverages value. One very fast way to resolving it is checking to see which is the correct spelling and dragging it through the rest of the data set to correct the rest of the highlighted filter data set. And with doing this, you've corrected it. If you come back here, you notice there's only one case scenario of beverages. Well, there's another error where there's snacks spelled wrongly. I filter out the two snack spellings, and autofill use it to drag over. It replicate the spelling across and correct. Let me take this back. You notice where the error was. So by just dragging this through, I correct every error. Okay, yes. So with this, I've corrected errors. Okay. Okay. Are you still with me, guys? Okay, yes, thank you. In what case should mid be used? Mid should be used when you intend to pull out text from in between text. Remember in the case where I use right and left, I intended to pull out text from the ends, either the left end of a text entry or the right end. But what if I want to pull out text that are in between? That is when I use the function mid. Let's say I want to pull out text. Let me use it already. Equal to mid. I intend to pull out text from Ada billions. I intend to pull out the billions. Remember, billions is towards the end. Let's say I intend to pull out just Ada. No. Maybe I intend to pull out Bill because Bill exists inside Ada billion. I hope she doesn't bill a lot, sha. So I intend to pull out Bill from Ada billions. If you notice, I probably have to note the character it starts from. How many characters are in Ada billion? 1, 2, 3. The hyphen is a character. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the fifth character is where B starts from. I'll tell it to start from the fifth character. And how many characters spells Bill? From that fifth character, it is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll type out 4 for number of characters and close my parenthesis, and it pulls out Bill from Ada billion for us. So that happens when you have a text in any cell address. You could pull out text in between text. That's not towards the left end or the right end. Let's continue. So back to cleaning the rest of the columns. If I intend to clean this product name, I'll do the same thing. I'll go through my product to see if there are case scenarios where there are errors in spellings. So if you can spot any, you tell me. If you cannot spot any errors, we continue. So you have to pay key attention to details. By the way, there are Excel features to pull out unique values for you. In case you do not want to use a filter feature, you could come to use the unique feature. Oh, this doesn't exist in this version of Microsoft Excel. I thought to use the older version for this class, by the way, guys, for the case of the situation where there will be students who also use older versions. So it's easy for us to stick to functions that everybody can apply in their practices. So there's a function called the unique function in older versions like 2021 and above that will help pull out unique values for you, just like the filter function does. Oh, so we couldn't find any inconsistency in our product name, so we move on along already. So we move on to quantity. This is what we do, by the way, as data analysts. We go through the data. We always look at data as data scientists, analysts, engineers, as data personnel. We always have to go through data all the time. So, oh, there's a case where there's a blank, and I'm thinking there has to be a reason why that is. So I'll filter out that case where there's a blank and see how I can resolve that. So, oh, these were for those total sales that we've created here. So we should leave that. There's nothing wrong with it. Remember, we created a new column to correct that issue. So there's this payment type. Oh, there is a case where card is spelled as scarf. To resolve this, filter it out, drag the correct spelling across to correct every wrong spelling, and then go back to check. So now we have unique values and we have cleaned our data set. Voila, I would like to see clap emojis in the comment section if you had gotten this far with me. Please, I'd like to see your emojis if you have. Thank you. So we have cleaned the sales data set. And this same effect is what we would apply to our expense data set and our, what other data set do we have? Inventory data set. But time is fast approaching. The end of our class is fast, our session is fast approaching, and we may not be able to touch that today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So this would be your assignment for the day. In the next class, we would have all our clean data sets. And who can tell me what we do immediately after data cleaning? So we culminate our session with that answer. What do we do after data cleaning, guys? Please remind me in our data science workflow, what do we do after data cleaning? What do we do after data cleaning? I'm waiting for your response, guys. Okay, so I'll remind you, since there's no response, we do EDA, exploratory data analysis, and then we can straight dive into the full analysis of our data set. Okay, so we have successfully cleaned our sales data set. Usually, the practice I have learned to make is to save that file differently from the file you were given originally. This helps to keep record of your progress. So many times you could just press Ctrl S or save this progress. But I would like for you to keep the original file provided for reference case. So we will come to save as, go to our data set column and save this now. Usually you can just add more information to give it meta description, like clean. You could add CL, or you could spell out cleaned, and you could add dates if necessary, if possible. So I could add my date 8. Today's date is 7th. Oh, you can't see my screen. I'm noticing you can't see my screen. So let me share the entire screen. Okay, here goes. Okay, so like I was saying, when saving the file we have cleaned, I would like for you to save it as a separate file from the original file. This helps for reference purpose. So you could easily save it as CLE cleaned dot sale data. You could add the date you cleaned it, still for reference purpose. So it's easy to recall what you have done. So you could use your Nigerian format for dates if that's easier for you to recall. Hyphens are best used in saving files to forward slashes. So dash 2026 and then save. So this saves our data set, our clean data set, ready for analysis. Your assignment to do it to go through the remaining 2 data sets and use the same cleaning practices we have used to clean them and get them ready for analysis in our next session tomorrow for EDA and full analysis. So thank you for being here. Thank you for staying to this part of the class. Thank you for coming all this way. Thank you for subscribing to LogTech's online training session. Thank you very much. I'd like to see your favorite emoji in the comment section, and I'll hope that you have liked and subscribed to our channel at this point too. Thank you very much for being here. I'll see you tomorrow, same time. I remain Dominic Kishatingunimi, our phone, Data Kish. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Good night, good night, good night.